Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock, and we're going to get you caught up on all of the news happening in mixed martial arts with Robin Black stopping by. On the show today, we're chatting Jose Aldo's timetable to return to training. John Kavanagh pulls back the curtain on McGregor's camp, and the return could be near for the last Emperor. Dave Meltzer first reported the news over the weekend, and the Union MMA Russian outlet confirmed with comments from Fedor Emelianenko that the last Emperor is looking to return to fight. Emelianenko, who was the top heavyweight in the sport from 2003 and throughout the rest of the decade, last fought in June of 2012 and then announced his retirement. It is the understanding that Fedor's people are open to speaking to all organizations and will once again open the door for a possible fight inside the UFC, which always eluded his career. John Kavanagh, the head coach at SBG Ireland and the man who led Conor McGregor's camp going into UFC 189, was a guest on the MMA Hour this week with Ariel Helwani. Kavanagh noted that throughout camp, they never actually did one live round of wrestling in preparation for Chad Mendes. McGregor was taken down 4 times by Mendes throughout the fight before McGregor stopped him late in the second to become the interim featherweight champion. And the featherweight champion, Jose Aldo, finally broke his silence on a Brazilian radio show this week where he stated he is 2 weeks away from returning to the gym to train, and no matter when the fight with Conor McGregor occurs, he will defeat him. And we will be back this Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time for a half-hour preview show leading into the UFC's card from Scotland, with the prelims airing here on Fight Network, including 4 big fights coming your way, including Paddy Holohan and Vaughn Lee headlining the prelim portion. And if you are in the Pickering, Ontario area this Saturday, former middleweight champion Anderson Silva will be there for a live meet and greet and autograph session, and you can get all of the information at the facebook.com/Warrior Fight Store site. I am here with Robin Black. There is no shortage of news to discuss. We'll get into all the Fedor news, but one that I'm curious your thought on. John Kavanagh, he was on the MMA Hour this week, and he said, you know what, we actually didn't even do one live round of wrestling throughout this camp for Chad Mendes, and I call BS on that. I think very much a tactic on their part to throw in the fact, oh, we didn't even drill wrestling and look how Conor did. Do you buy this?
I tend to buy
not one
what
live
he
round
says,
of wrestling.
But it is possible. It's certainly possible. So when I first look at it at face value, I say that is possible based on the approach that he's taking, which is I don't have to win every exchange. I don't have to win every striking exchange. I don't have to win every wrestling exchange. Whatever the outcome of that, that's where the fight is now. That's my new reality, and I'll fight from there. That was true when he was in guard. I'm going to elbow. If you raise your head, I'm going to get underhooks and get my feet. If I create instability, I'll try to force you to go for submission, whatever. So I believe it based on that. But on the other hand, if I'm going to give these guys so much credit for being psychologically smart and playing games and stuff, you do have to start wondering if they're ever going to tell you the truth, because why would they? It's way smarter strategically to keep you guessing, and they're very strategic, and they're also, Conor's willing to play whatever game is necessary, is his coach. I don't know. That's a really good question.
There's a heavy amount of gamesmanship that I think people appreciate. These fighters, these trainers, none of them appear here on this desk under oath. They can say whatever they want. All of them have an agenda. All of them have a reason, and you'd like to believe them at face value. Yeah. But you do have to question, the tactics that they throw out, and the idea that, that completely changes things. If, wow, Conor didn't even drill wrestling in camp, and here he is going in. Yeah, he was taken down 4 times. Man, imagine a whole camp where he does drill wrestling throughout the entire 10 weeks.
Exactly. If we're going to play games with confidence and games with the unknown, well, why don't we tell some lies? It makes sense to me. Conor did, however, stop 3 of 7 takedowns in 10 minutes. Nick Lentz only stopped 3 of 10 takedowns in 15 minutes. So this guy wrestled pretty good. Anyway, he got exposed. Did Nick Lentz get exposed? Nick Lentz is a very good wrestler. But there's a lot of big changes that have happened in the last few years of MMA. And depending on where you get your information, a lot of people talk like it's still 2010 or 2012 or whatever. And a lot of people think like it is. And that would be like trying to understand your iPhone 5 years ago. It doesn't make any sense. If somebody tries to explain to you how to use your iPhone and they have an iPhone 1, it's bullshit, right? And so the game is like that a lot. So people will often say, for example, fighting is like chess. Well, sometimes fighting is like chess, and sometimes it's like poker. Sometimes you got something in here, you make a bluff, You wait for the river to come up and you lay your cards down, or you don't. You take the money. And I traveled with a bunch of poker players when I was traveling with the Score Fighting Series. We headed out to Montreal on a train. Those guys are lying to each other all day, every day, all the time, laying lies and traps and misdirections so that the next time they play, you don't know if, some of the things they told you is true, and it's crazy. So maybe fighting is getting that way.
It's a perfect segue of going back to 2012 and even to the past, because now Fedor Emelianenko has risen once again. His people indicating that he wants to fight again, and Fedor has now confirmed that. Who does it make sense to go after Fedor? I personally, from just looking at this from Fedor's perspective, I hope there's a great payday for him, but I do not think that this has a glorious outcome. I do not think Fedor going into that UFC heavyweight division, this man will get massacred.
Yeah.
I think Bellator certainly becomes an option. However, this is history repeating itself, where he got a gigantic contract in 2009 with the hopes he would bring them the pay-per-view. He did not, and that they could make a ton of advertising off CBS. And they got booted off CBS after the entire Nick Diaz, Mayhem Miller debacle. So they were left with promoting Fedor on Showtime, and he couldn't make money on Showtime. So Bellator is in this other stage now where if they're going to outbid him, can they make money promoting Fedor with his price tag?
It's a great point. Many years ago, I played in a band, and I knew some unsavory characters, and there was this guy, and he sold marijuana. That's against the law. And he dated this pretty girl. And after the series of this length of time, he got broken into and beaten up because the pretty girl brought some other people in to rob him. It was awful. He was injured. Terrible things happened to him. 6 months later, he made up with the pretty girl. He started dating again. He was so happy. And then in she came with the same guys who beat him up and took all his money. Fedor is that pretty girl. And the M1 team are the guys who are going to come in and steal all your money. It doesn't make any sense. I'd like to see Fedor fight in the UFC. Fedor has some things about him that are brilliant. He's got unreal timing on the punch, and he does have that psychological advantage over a lot of guys. I'd love to see him fight at 205 pounds in the UFC against carefully selected opponents.
Regardless of skill set, that one fight in the UFC, there will be interest in. I'm not going to deny that. I just look at the outcome. I do not see it in the side of Fedor.
He faded once, then took time off, then come back, and we expect him to be at his peak again?
Lots of questions involving one Fedor Emelianenko. For Robin Black, I'm John Pollock. Stay tuned for more Fight News Now Extra.